Where's Denny? Where's Paul? Denny and Paul? Denny Simpson? Reggie's sick.
Are we gonna?
Okay. Oh, not me.
My Lanta.
Everybody alert now?
I'm awake.
All right, ready to go? I'm off, I think. Am I off?
I wasn't sleeping, but I'm definitely not asleep.
All right. I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action for health, safety, and sanitation, 2430, amend code ordinance 94106B, residential sanitation rates. For the Finance Committee, 2424, then and now, deductible recovery group, law department. 2425, a 2024 contribution to SPCA. 2426, increase PO 24759 Huntington Bank for the police department. 2427, expenditure over 20,000 MNJ Technologies IT department. 2428, expenditure over 20,000 Dex Imaging IT department. 2429, amend code new section 12905, police jurisdiction outside municipal limits. 2431, amend salaries and benefits code 3105, step pay scale modifications municipal court. 2432, lease with Lake Business Products Municipal Court desk printers. 2433, purchase one 2024 F-250 pickup truck service. 2434, bids 2024 equipment and general pavement services. 2435, expenditure over 20,000 Chippewa roofing for the water department. 2436, amend sex offender policy MCRC. 2437, agreement with MS Consultants Prospect Street Bridge replacement. 2438, amend ordinance 18922 Fire Station 1 parking lot. 2439, expenditure over 20,000 New Harris P25 radio system police department. 2440, transfer request railroad fund. 2441, transfer request MCRC capital. 2442, budget amendment. 2443, agreement with National Engineering and Architectural Services Prospect Street Bridge. 2444, expenditure KTS equipment parks department. 2445, cooperative purchase Roscoe Ewing playground replacement parks. 2446, 2023 carry forward. 2447, amend 3107 revised administrative office manager job description. 2448, FAA grant application snow removal equipment at airport. Phew, that's a lot. All right, so we go to 23215 management agreement operation lease Medina Municipal Airport. Mr. Huber?
This is a management agreement and contract between the City of Medina and Coldstream Services, which is run by Ron Waldron. He's been managing the airport since the 1st of November. This is a one-year contract to see what the airport generates in terms of income, see how he's going to be able to proceed with the business, and also for us to see whether he is going to work out as the manager. So far, everything is good, and the airport seems to be operating well. So I would respectfully ask that the council authorize the mayor to sign this contract, and I expect by this fall we'll be revisiting a longer-term contract.
Okay. Any questions on this? And this is the second step. If you remember, the first step we did the settlement and release agreement, I think it was, with Olson Products a few meetings ago. Now this is the second step to move forward with the new manager. So, okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2424, then and now for Trident Deductible Recovery Group. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. President. This deals with a loss that was on July 30th of 2020. We're over our deductible, so we have to pay our share. It's a then and now because we don't know these are coming until we get the bill. We did put in a purchase order to cover hopefully the next one, and then we'll just keep up with it from there.
Any questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause. Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2425, the 2024 SPCA contribution. I think Paul's been working on this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With us today is former executive director of the, or current executive director of the SPCA, Mr. Marquis. He and I have been working on this for, I don't know, 10 years maybe, keeping it going. They've had a change in personnel, so we were working out the kinks to get the data to us. We did get that earlier today. I did forward it to everybody. So if you get a chance to look at it, I will scrub it some to make sure it's correct, and I'll get that to you before the council meeting. Initially, last year we gave them 10.5 with a 3% increase, which what seems to be the COLA for this year. I'm requesting a donation of $11,000 to the SPCA, but mainly because they do provide a valuable service to this to the city in taking care of not only the cats, but the dogs, the reptiles, and just about any other animal you can think of that we could have in the city. I know, John, you had a question, and I asked Mr. Marquis, so would you please go to the back so you can answer? Well, no, a little, just before that. Next to Kathy there, please.
No, thanks, Paul, and I think just so everybody knows my question, I know we received an email from Paul listing all the, different animals that were listed by the SPCA. My question had to deal with the animals listed. Some of them are from homes that were delivered directly to the SPCA, and some of them are strays. There's a lot of strays, maybe 60, 70, 75% are strays, and my question was, when there's a stray delivered, and we dealt with Meow Fix, and if they're already caught because they're a feral cat and spayed or neutered, and they have to release it where they caught it again, do they catch the same animal again, and some people bring that same animal back to the SPCA? And can you tell if it's the same animal? I think they tag them or clip
be
their
tagged.
ears, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, is that a lot of animals? Because it seemed like there's still a lot of strays from the list that Paul submitted of cats in the city. And I thought from our last presentation, I thought there were 300 that were caught, and released and were treated. And I didn't know if you knew any of that information.
Well, first of all, the stray cats, the feral cats, is one thing. Those are just, let's call them wild cats. They've been born, have from feral mothers, and therefore they get some special attention, but they're tagged so that we know into the future. Okay, that's one. The SPCA basically we will take, as an example, last year in Montville Township, we were called to a house and basically took out approximately 80 cats. And I mean, it was obviously, I mean, you're talking a very nice housing development, and you go in there and having to take out cats that have gone down into the ductwork and stuff like that, that it took us about 2 weeks to get them all out of there. Some weren't living. And then recently, down in Gloria Glens, and I may be diverting here, but 10 years ago or more, well, probably 15 years ago, there was a situation where a lady had 100 dogs in this house. Ooh. And it was the most ungodly thing you can ever imagine. So we got all those dogs out, and through time, we got rid of them all. Some of them were out of, sent out of state. They were looking for puppies and things like that. So anyhow, fast forward ahead, about 2 or 3 months ago, got a call. They went down there, the same house. Whoever it is let her back into her house after it was somewhat cleaned up, and now she has 80 cats. And so pulled out and basically, said, somehow you're going to have to stop this because this is just ridiculous. But those are kind of examples of how we come across, animals, not on those large amounts, but people maybe they have a cat that has like 4 or 5 kittens and they don't want them, so they'll come down, they'll bring them down, and they'll, surrender them to us, And then we take those out and have them fixed, have them taken care of, and they are adoptable kittens. Cats, I mean, we definitely either, let's say a lady, or I won't put it into, let's say a family, elderly, decide they can no longer take care of an animal, dog, cat, whatever, they'll bring it down and surrender it. And those aren't always easy because a lot of times they're older anyhow, but there are people out there that will take an older animal. So those are the sources of some of our, of what we get. Now, as far as are they tagged, are they, no, we don't like brand them, to say, this cat, but we pretty much know through documentation of, where the cats, have gone and what has happened to it. A lot of times our people will follow up and ask how your cat's doing or your dog, whatever you adopted, is everything doing well? But as far as actually, as I say, branding them, no, we don't really do
Well,
that.
do you see, I mean, you mentioned a lot of owner surrender. There's a lot of those, what you mentioned, were owner surrender animals, like the elderly getting rid of the cat or somebody having too many kittens. But when people bring them in, have your people been seeing the ones that already been, the feral cats? Because I assume the strays, maybe people are still catching them. Do you notice any of them bringing in that their ears are tagged already, or do you notice any of that?
No,
Or,
not really. No,
Okay.
not really, because if they are, then we will call it to their attention. I mean, we have developed a pretty good rapport with Meow Fix, and appreciate really what they have done and how they have done it. But it is just an ongoing problem that will be around probably forever. As long as there are feral cats, they just keep reproducing, and nobody owns them. They just run wild.
No,
So-
right, I think, like I said, I know, and I think Ms. Hazeltine mentioned, they clip their ears once they've been spayed or neutered, and of course, they have to release them back where they found them.
Right.
And, they live their life out where, whatever, still feral, but they won't be able to reproduce. And it just, to me, it was just shocking to see that we still have, after that many being spayed and neutered, there should be less because they're not reproducing anymore. But I don't know if it's because people are just letting them out. More people are taking their cats and just saying, well, go be free, or I'm not sure what they're doing because it just seems, like a lot of strays.
Well,
out there.
as I said, if that lady in Gloria Glenn's had, those things would have all run free. I mean, if she'd opened the door and just let them out, they would have all run free.
Now, as part of the SPCA, when you run into something like the Gloria again situation, is there any type of action that is taken against her because she's a repeat
Yes,
offender and stuff like
yes.
that? Okay.
I mean,
I think Jeff does.
right from the very beginning,
Okay.
we, she's reported to the police get involved with it, and it's a hoarding situation,
Yeah.
and they are held accountable as best they can. They probably don't have a lot of money.
Right.
So there's not a whole lot you can do, but they're tagged, from the standpoint that they shouldn't be allowed to have any more animals, and there probably should be a home inspection, every so often for offenders like that, so.
No, I get it. I mean, there definitely is a problem going on that hasn't been solved if she continues to do that. Well, she doesn't view it as a problem, but the rest of us in society, that's a lot of cats.
Right.
I mean, so
Right.
it's difficult.
But I will say, again, we appreciate your financial help of what you have given us, through the years, because it's really, it's just an ongoing, every year, when the end of the year comes, we've done somewhere about, 1,200, to 1,600 animals. And most of them the majority of them are cats, then dogs, and then others. We get some other things along the way too. So, again, with the help of Medina Police, and when we have to go in and do our young lady had great success in being able to go in when there's a call to take care of something. She has always felt supported, and we greatly appreciate that.
Okay. Natalie had a question?
I do. Do you know how many of the stray cats that are then returned to the area were actually a pet that if somebody had an inside-outside cat, is there any way to tell that information?
Well, usually if we, most people will have their animal spayed and neutered. Because if they don't, then they have tendencies to be, show tendencies of wildness.
Right, but we had an inside-outside cat that at one point in time disappeared for a day or so, came
Yeah.
back with his ear notched. He was neutered, but he was a stray that we took in initially. So somebody caught him, took him, and they're like, oh, he's already fixed, and then just brought him back, so he was only missing for a day. But what I'm asking is, the strays that are found, do you know how many of them are already spayed or neutered, or is that
Yeah, I
not
mean,
some-
we can tell whether have been neutered.
Okay.
And so, we really don't, this whole thing kind of started as we don't handle ferals. So that somebody, these other, what is it, Meow Fix, took this on couple years ago, and which is a good thing. And I think we've had a good relationship with them. But as far as us taking in feral cats, no, we really don't want to do that. And I can't stand here right now and tell you if, like, all those down south were all neutered. I haven't got that far into it yet, so,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Anybody else? Paul, you have something else?
I just one question. Have you noticed a decrease in the overall number of cats since Medina Meow Fix has gotten up and running?
I would probably say no to that because this county continues to grow. And now, again, I'm talking about cats, non-feral cats. I mean, we continue to get some all the time because when an individual's cat is pregnant and has kittens, a lot of times they don't, there's 4 or 5 kittens there and they don't want them all, so they really wish that the cat had not gotten pregnant. So they have to, they want to do something with them. So they'll bring them to us, and kittens are obviously a lot easier to adopt than mature cats. So it's, that cute little thing is, it's, the only problem is they grow into big things. But anyhow, no, I would just say that, they're just, we're as busy today as I think we've ever been. Not more so, I mean, not hugely so, but we see a continual influx of cats, to us. And actually, there have been a couple years where we've actually seen a diminution, and there will be phone calls coming to us. Are you in need of some cats? And so we will, maybe do a trade. Maybe we have some dogs and they want some cats, and we might do a trade, with them, or vice versa. So, it's not huge, but it is something that we're always looking at, to take care of, the need of the people coming to us and requesting animals.
Okay, and then one more question. I noticed there's one address in town here that there's maybe 30 animals that were, cats and reptiles and a couple of dogs. Is there any charge to that resident for your services?
I cannot answer that question at this point, but I will get you an answer.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
We a lot of times we'll ask for a donation, but most of the time, if they have that many animals,
There's other problems.
there's a lot of other problems. That's
Okay.
correct. But I will get an answer.
Okay, all right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Mayor?
First of all, Hub, thank you for everything that the SPCA has done for all the years for the city of Medina. We really appreciate the service. I think I didn't have a whole lot of time to look at the data because we had a meeting right before this. But I think I'm looking at the same address that Paul is I'll just say in the northwest sector of the city. And it says owner surrendered. So that tells me they were not outside wandering around they were probably in the house. Because in this particular address, again, it seems like a very unusual amount of cats, and then on top of it, it was dogs and other animals as well. So I'm sorry, I guess my question is, if it says owner surrendered, is that generally within the house, within the confines of the building? Or it could be a pet cat that they let wander and now they don't want it anymore?
True, and a lot of times you can, if you have a fenced-in yard, you certainly can let the dogs out or have, maybe dog houses, and
Yes.
that's considered them being, let's say, taken care of. Because recently I heard of somebody had like a beautiful dog in Brunswick, that they left it out all the time, and people were furious. It's down to 0 and this dog's out, but as long as it has shelter and it's restrained, you are allowed to do that. And even though it looks kind of inhumane, the law says that you can do it. And if they go in and see it's investigated and they see that the animal is getting proper nourishment, it's fine. You don't like to necessarily see them out like that, but if they are, it's okay. So some of those animals may have been in the yard. I could get you an answer to that one too, if you would like more information.
They were all in the house, 63 cats, 3 dogs, and 2 lizards.
Boy, I was gonna say, there's quite a few cats. And this address, I don't think that the homes are huge. So I was confused also, yes.
Well, just to refresh everybody's memory, probably about 15 years ago, I think Jim Denny was on council. I don't know if you were, Paul. Maybe it was when you did, but we had an ordinance that we wanted to try to start licensing cats, if you remember that.
That was before my time.
Yeah, that was one of the things you don't want to touch, even though dogs have licenses. People, for some reason, do not want to license their cats. And this would solve a lot of problems, of course, because now you know whose cat it is if it got lost. Because if somebody lost their cat, all they do is stick things on telephone poles to say, hey, I lost my cat.
Really, you should just chip it for
But-
the cost of the license.
But yeah, we tried that, but there was more people who showed up at that meeting than I think at any meeting we've ever had.
Come on, now, what about the deer? You can't let
No.
the cats trump the deer.
They did.
Okay.
They were very adamant that they were not going to license their cat. So that's not a solution, I guess, because even though it sounds logical, I think that people don't want to go down that path at this time. So just to give everybody an update of what we talked about. But Hub, thanks for all the information, and yeah, if you can get whatever you need to get Paul and the mayor, we'll move forward with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you and your organization, Hub.
2420, we gotta have
Yeah, I'll make a motion then to approve a donation of $11,000 for this calendar year to SPCA.
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2426, increase PO 24759 Huntington Bank for the police department. Is this Keith or the Lieutenant Markham? Lieutenant?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request to increase the purchase order for Huntington Bank by $6,000 to a total of $31,000. It's to add line 4, which is $1,000 from the equitable sharing program for the purchase of awards and novelty items, and add line 5, $5,000 from the police training fund to use for training costs.
Okay, questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed, motion carries. 2427, expenditure over 20,000 M&J Technologies IT Department. Sergeant Zaremba.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have approximately 14 cruisers that are outfitted with tablets in them. 13 are field computers, and one is an administrative one. Some of them are 8 years old. Some of them we got on a grant from the federal government in 2020 for during the COVID times. But the bottom line is those tablets are seeing end of life, and the company that we bought them from, Motion, sold to another company called Zebra. Zebra's rebuilt that tablet, and in my opinion, it's not as good as the originals from the first company. So we're at the juncture where we need to start a cycle process, just like we do with PCs and copy machines and everything around here at the city. And we wanted to purchase 5 new tablets for the cruisers and the docks that are required, and the keyboards. We did bring in the new company Zebra, and we physically looked at their tablets and looked at them and compared them. We also brought in Panasonic, and we did the same. And we brought in a third one that we had started testing in the fire department called G-Tech. And at the end of our research, based on many factors, not just cost, but size of the screens, we've settled on the G-Tech as being the best option for us with support, cost, and size. Let's face it, sometimes in the car, it's the bigger the screen, the better for seeing. So this is a request to put 5 in this year. Our goal would be to do 5 this year, 5 next year, and then do 4 the year after that. That should put us all on the same platform, and it would give us, we can generally get 5 years out of these, I think. 8 years was really good, and I thought that might have went a little far, but they were still running, so we did it. But we kind of take that, it's fluid. We'd like to think 5 years, but if I can make it 7, we're going to go 7.
Okay, questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2428, expenditure over 20,000, Dex Imaging IT Department. Sergeant Zaremba?
Thanks, Mr. President. This is similar to what we did last year. Last year, we looked at the copy machines citywide and end of life, and we did 3 last year. We actually did civil service dispatch and the cemetery. These are our next 3 plus 1 for this year. The records department was put in 2019. Engineering and community development were put in 2016, so those are close to 8 years old. And the rec center has a unit that was also put in 2016. So the same thing, we went off our research from last year, which is about 6 months ago, and we had RICOs in place with our current vendor. We looked at the comparison for the pricing and the functionality, and again settled on Kyocera models. So we're slowly phasing in Kyocera, but this is the costs for the 4 units that we want to do, based on end of life. And when I say that, that's based on our vendor, because what happens is they run into getting parts problems. So when they break and we call them out, they come out and they say we can't get parts for it anymore, and then our unit's down. And considering we've got 8 years out of the engineering and community development, I think we're doing real good on these as well.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2429, amend code section 12905 for the police jurisdiction outside limits. Is this Lieutenant or Greg Hubert? Lieutenant.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request to amend the city ordinance and add a new section to give us the police department jurisdiction on all city-owned property outside of the city, to include the airport, the water plant, and any future properties. We're also requesting the emergency clause to give us jurisdiction immediately. We have some events scheduled for the eclipse, and we'd like to have that jurisdiction in place by then.
Anybody have any questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2431 and 2432 will be held until the next meeting. 2433, purchase of one 2024 F-250 pickup truck for the service. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pickup trucks seem to be slowly becoming available again. For the last few years, we weren't able to, they were far and few between. So this purchase request is to replace a 2011 GMC. It's been in the fleet. And we still have that vehicle. It's being used sparingly. It's seen better days. Thank you.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2434, bids for the 2024 Equipment and General Pavement Services Service Department. Nino?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is our annual equipment, general pavement services, specifically the asphalt program. Yearly, we've been able to resurface, repair our water breaks that are in pavement and asphalt, and then some larger areas that are above the street department's capabilities. Last year we did East Friendship. This year, Pat and I have been talking about West Friendship and dire need, and as well as some other areas. We're hopeful to get some good bids upon our letting. Thank you.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2435, expenditure over 20,000 for Chippewa roofing for the water department. You know,
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Clearwell Building, as it's known at the water plant on Granger Road, is the newest of buildings. It's 1997, I think, Pat, I'm not sure. It's before Keith and I came into the city. It's original roof. It houses the employees, the field staff, as well as all of our pieces, parts, and for system maintenance for the water department. So it's in dire need. It's beyond repair, so it needs replaced. And that's what this quote is for, $28,900.
any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2436, amend sex offender policy, ordinance 9022 for the MCRC. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to amend the exhibit that's part of ordinance 9022 as it relates to our facility usage plan of action. We just wanted to clarify that all non-member visitors will be required to present an ID and to sign in on our daily pass log sheet, as well as a change to visitor access where we control blended traffic for our large events like basketball games, volleyball games, events that take place in the field house where we allow visitors to come in through the D doors to the high school and come straight into the field house, and we limit their access to the facility. So this change, obviously, they would not need an ID for those large events, but anybody coming into the facility will need an ID.
Just a quick question. Did you say all non-member visitors will be required to sign in, or are you taking that out? Because it's taken out on this one.
We added it back in up top as part of the initial paragraph. So we removed the language that said upon the purchase of a membership in Day Pass, because we're requiring an ID for all visitors.
I got you, I see that.
But we want those non-member and any visitors to sign the waiver when they're coming in.
Gotcha. I couldn't see the bold, maybe my eyes are going, but okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2437, agreement with MS Consultants for Prospect Street Bridge. Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. President. Council might remember last year we were awarded about $1.8 million each for two bridge projects, South Prospect and South Huntington. In addition, this fall, ODOT has a program where they will, and that's for 100% of the construction costs. We still have to design it. ODOT has funding available through a grant to pay for $200,000 worth of design. So council authorized us to apply for it, and we were successful for the Prospect Street Bridge. Total engineering cost is $242,600 and some dollars. ODOT will pay for $200,000 in a separate agreement with the consultant. So we are responsible for the balance of the cost, which is about a little under $42,000, plus the geotechnical work, which is later on in the agenda.
Thank you. Did Mr. Huber have to review this agreement, or is this our standard?
He did, and he did request one change. The consultant agreed to make it, so the agreement you have will be modified.
All right. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2438, amend ordinance 8922, Fire Station 1 parking lot. Is this Patrick?
Thank you. As you know, we did complete the removal and replacement of the concrete parking lot of Fire Station Number 1. Upon removing the existing concrete, we found some very bad soils. It required extensive rehabilitation. We had to remove it, add stone. Even in some areas, we added geotextile fabric in order to stabilize the base so that we could put the parking lot back. Total cost increase is a little over $48,000. That money is available through the ARPA funds.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2439, expenditure over 20,000, Interaction Insight Corp. for the Police Department. Lieutenant Markham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request to purchase an upgrade to our recording solutions for our 911 and our radio traffic. This is to integrate the new radio consoles with the recordings. The emergency clause is requested because the project is ready to go and we need to be able to record 911 immediately as well as the radio traffic.
Any questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2440, fund transfer, railroad fund.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the amount per the agreement with our customers that the city contributes to the railroad that the city owns each year. And then that serves 3 customers, but it also, part of the reason the city makes this contribution is it's available to serve a number of other properties on Progress Drive and Lake Road.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2441, fund transfer request, MCRC Capital. Keith?
This is per the agreement for the rec center that we have at the school, and we recently, well, a couple years ago, started to increase this based on inflation and the age of the building. It was $100,000 a year, now it's up to $130,000. It's on its way to $150,000.
Move to approve.
Second?
Do you have to abstain?
It's just transfer of fund.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2442, budget amendments. We have 2024-11 for the parks. Keith?
This is money that was received, so we need to appropriate it to be able to spend it.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2443, agreement with National Engineering and Architectural Services Prospect Street Bridge. Patrick?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is what I referenced earlier. This is the geotechnical investigation for the Prospect Street Bridge replacement.
Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 2444, expenditure for KTS equipment for the Parks Department. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. In 2022, we got a purchase order to order a piece of equipment that was actually ordered in June of 2022. It has finally arrived at the dealer after a long wait. The purchase is being made through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program, and that's a percentage discount off the total when it's received. So since it was ordered 2 years ago, there's been a price increase. So this request for an additional $3,500 is to increase the, to get a new purchase order for 2024 because we still have the 2022 PO open and encumbered.
They wouldn't honor that 2022 order?
No.
Quote?
No,
We maybe have to have Mr. Huber talk to him.
Hey, John, it sounds like you need.
I tried my best.
All right, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2445, cooperative purchase replacement playground, Roscoe Ewing Park. Jansen?
Thank you, Mr. President. With the carry forward appropriation as the next item on the agenda, this project is in line because of that. We have 3 older playgrounds that still remain in the city, Roscoe Ewing Park being one of them. It was originally installed in 1997, and since then, safety standards have changed. The playground has chains on it, and those can't be on there any longer on one of the sections. So before we decided to purchase a new playground, we engaged a company last year to provide us a quote for repair items. And the repair for that playground was in the ballpark of $18,000. And it just didn't make sense to put that kind of money into a playground that's over almost 30 years old. So we got designs from 2 different companies that are both on cooperative purchasing contracts. And the one that we liked the most was through Snyder Recreation. It's a Burke playground. So we're proposing to remove the existing structure and install a new one once the materials arrive for that.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 24 is 2446, 2023 carry forward. Keith?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is pretty much the same as every year. The big news item, I guess, here is we had to significantly reduce the amount of carry forward in the sanitation fund. So because of the, we haven't raised the rates in a long time in sanitation fund, which is why you have a request to look at sanitation rates. So that came up in this process. So you'll notice sanitation, it's a very limited amount of carry forward because we just didn't have the money to support the rest of it.
Yeah, I think we have about $14.5 million throughout all the departments and all the accounts that are being used for the carry forward, and, which is good. I mean, there's a lot of projects that the department heads, if whatever they need or want to have done, can do that. As Keith mentioned, we will have to look at sanitation a little bit, since the rates and costs and the tipping fees continue to increase for some reason, and, we, have to cover that somehow, so we're gonna have to look at that.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Simpson?
And Keith and I had talked, I think it's appropriate to go ahead and move this to the Utility Rate Review Committee for discussion, and probably in April when we have our health, safety, and sanitation yearly update, which is not scheduled yet, we can also address it at that time after the utility rate review.
Right, okay. So you're gonna work with Kathy and get a meeting scheduled?
Yeah, it'll be sometime in April. And again, that's just my yearly update from the police, fire, and sanitation.
Okay.
For the projects that's gonna be occurring in 2024.
Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 2447, amend 3102, revision to administrative office manager job description. Mayor Hamel.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, for council's benefit, Sherry has informed me that she's going to retire sometime in May. What that prompts us to do is each time to pull out the job description before we post the job and make any necessary revisions of details of the work that weren't properly reflected in the job description. So that's what you have before you now. Our hope is to advertise it here for a period of time in late March, very early April, try to do some interviews, make a selection, and then have at least 30 days with Sherry for some cross-training. Sherry's also done a great job with the city of creating a notebook of the different things that she does, some of them yearly, some of them every 2 years, 5 years, depending on what the task is, which will be very helpful for the next person. And last, just for John's benefit, because I know he generally asks these things, I did ask her, is that something we're doing? Do we have too much on your plate? Do we need to maybe spread some of that work around? And her answer to me was this was totally personal. Actually, she's more relaxed when she's at work than she is not at work. And really, the case is she has 40 years total in the PERS system between her part-time time in Brunswick and her full-time here with us. And her husband retired maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I think that's causing a little bit of a pull as well. So we wish her the best. We do appreciate her giving us this much notice to let us properly prepare and find the right person to take over, not replace her, but take over. Thank you.
No, that's great. I mean, 40 years is great, but I thought it was 50 that was the minimum.
50. She's not an indentured servant.
But okay, anybody have any questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Finally, 2448, an FAA grant application for snow removal equipment at the airport. Patrick?
Thank you. We were advised last week about FAA grant program that we are eligible to apply for. We're looking at purchasing a $300,000 piece of equipment for snow removal. Nino could talk about, but the grant itself is through the FAA at 90%, ODOT 5%. The city's share would be $15,000, which is the balance of the 5%.
Okay. Nino, anything to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. President, Pat. So we had a training out there with Steve Potosik from Delta and for snow removal and protocols on the runways. And when we talked about equipment and efficiencies, came up that there's equipment available out in Idaho, Nebraska. It's warranted. Very large tractor with turf tires. It's multi-use. We can use it with snow removal on a push box and snow blowers like they use at airports, as well as in the summer. Because it has turf tires, it's easier on the turf, on the grass to pull large mowing equipment as well. So we're looking to be more efficient and moving forward. Thanks.
Okay, any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Paul?
Nino, is this equipment going to require any special training, or is it just a different variation of what we already have?
It's like a big wheel loader, but bigger. And Greg can speak to the size of these tractors. I think they're 140 horsepower. So we have a large wheel loader that we load with salt. Now, guys haven't used, a push box with them, but I imagine there'd be some training internally that we would do.
Okay, is that going to be absorbed with your carry forward, or are you going to have to get funds for that from someplace else?
The training,
Yes, the
I
training.
think we would absorb it. I mean, if we're able to get this grant, we'd be real appreciative, and I think we would make it work.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Paul, the only thing I heard from Nina was that Pat's not allowed to drive it.
Obviously, there's something inside there that nobody else knows.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Is there anything else to come before finance before we have a motion to recess into executive session?
If not, I'll make a motion to go into executive session at 6:47 PM here for the purpose of considering the purchase of property for a public purpose, because premature disclosure of the information would give the unfair competitive bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the public's interest, to include the mayor, the law director, and anybody else, Mayor. And Pat Patton.
Second?
Will the clerk please call the roll?
DeSalvo. Yes. Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Hazelton. Motion passes.
We'll be recessing into executive session to discuss what Mr. Shields just mentioned, reconvening in the finance prior to the council meeting to adjourn the finance committee meeting and taking no action of anything discussed in executive session. We are in recess.